Good evening and welcome to SBS World News Australia. I'm Lee Lin Chin.
And I'm Michael Tomalaris.
Christchurch is still reeling tonight from the most powerful earthquake to hit New Zealand in 80 years. The 7.1 trembler struck just before dawn, bringing down buildings and buckling roads. Amazingly, there have been no reported fatalities. Its epicentre was some 30 kilometres northwest of Christchurch, near the town of Darfield. But the bulk of the damage is centred around the CBD and nearby suburbs. And that damage is significant. The downtown area was evacuated and remains closed. Electricity supplies are still cut to about half of the city. Christchurch Airport was closed but reopened this afternoon. And a series of aftershocks shook the area throughout the day.
New Zealand's used to small earthquakes, but this was no small tremor. It hit just before dawn.
This is it, the big earthquake, 4:38.
Shaking homes so violently, many old buildings in the South Island's largest city crumbled under the force. Many residents started to head for higher ground, fearing a tsunami.
Up as far as we can go to get away from in case there's a tsunami.
What about your house? How was that?
Pretty scary. My microwave ended up in my fish tank.
Well, it's very noisy and it moved around a lot. It shook very hard and it seemed to take a heck of a long time to stop.
Oh my gosh, well that shake lasted probably over a minute.
We were so scared, it was terrible.
No tsunami was generated, but the city's infrastructure took a battering. Buildings crumbled and roads buckled and cracked. The mayor has declared a state of emergency and people are being warned to stay away from damaged structures.
In terms of the scale of the damage, I think it's absolutely immense, and we're really just beginning to come to terms with the scale of what we've got in front of us at the moment.
A large part of the city has lost power and emergency crews are battling to fix a number of gas leaks. Water and sewage services have also been cut and residents have been asked not to flush their toilets.
Foremost is the safety of people, and that's still our major issue right now. And we are making sure, as I've said before, that people are given appropriate water supply, because that's going to be an issue over the next 24 hours.
Despite the extent of the damage in the city of 340,000 people, injuries have been minimal. A man in his 50s was hit by a falling chimney and is in a serious condition. Another was badly cut by glass, and roughly 100 people are being treated for minor bumps and cuts.
I think we've been extremely lucky as a nation that there has so far been no reported fatalities. I think that is just, we're blessed actually.
The Prime Minister has flown to the South Island city to inspect the damage, promising to do all in his power to bring it back to normal.
The government will obviously work with the local authorities, Mayor Bob Parker and the local surrounding mayors, but the government will obviously be making a contribution to try and make sure we can get Christchurch back on its feet as quickly as possible.
The cost is expected to reach almost $2 billion. It's the largest to hit New Zealand since a 7.8 magnitude quake in Napier in 1931 that killed 256 people. Sam Eichen, World News, Australia.
And a short time ago, I spoke to 3 News reporter Mike McRoberts in Christchurch. He says the many aftershocks have added to the misery.
Not very well, actually. I think quite a few people are traumatised by the big quake that struck at 4:35 here this morning and the aftershocks, and there's been plenty of them, something like 25 since then, has certainly made life very difficult for the residents here. It's also created problems too in the central business district of Christchurch, where I'm standing. A lot of the older buildings here have tumbled, and of course the aftershocks aren't helping that.
What about the weather coming into play? Gale force winds have been forecast. How will this exacerbate the situation and what effect will this have?
Well, it certainly won't make things easier, and it is cooling down considerably here at the moment. Luckily today it's been a nice fine day, but yes, there is a forecast for gale force winds and for rain, and that's going to make life very difficult indeed. There are a number of residents who have been evacuated from their homes because they're unsafe. They're at the moment in various welfare camps. scattered around the city. So obviously they'll be pretty concerned about the weather and what might happen. And of course we've got a very big rural community here in Canterbury, and that'll pose a lot of problems for them too.
The government has imposed a state of emergency. What are the major concerns from now on?
Well, right here in the central city of Christchurch at the moment, there's a curfew, so and that started about an hour ago. And what's happened is the police have stepped in a block that basically surrounds the CBD, the Central Business District here in Christchurch, has been ruled out of bounds for any pedestrians, any people. A couple of reasons. Firstly, there are a number of buildings around here that are teetering and could tumble on people. And the other thing, of course, is looting. And there was a little bit of opportunistic looting in the early hours of this morning straight after the quake, but there hasn't been much since. So that's happened. There's also the township of Kaipoi where there's been a curfew imposed there too. In terms of the greater civil defence emergency, I guess there's checks to be made on sewerage and water systems. There's been a lot of burst pipes here, reconnections of power, sewerage systems as well. So there's plenty of work to be done over the next couple of days.
And meanwhile, we'll continue to keep track of the situation. But for now, thank you so much for talking to us.
My pleasure.